Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to today's program on Wescom Estate Planning. My name is Lam Liu. I'm a retirees resource specialist at the UCLA Emeriti Retirees Relations Center. Our office reports to the Vice Chancellor of Academic Personnel and serves over 16,000 retired faculty, staff, campus, and community partners. Our staff here is composed of our director, Aisha Dixon, my colleague, Maria Lubrano, and myself. Maria, she might be running a little bit late, but she will be coming on. She organized and coordinated today's program. But Aisha is out of town on a conference and she sends her regards, so I'm taking over. I just want to take care of a few things first. I'm going to mute everyone out of courtesy to our speakers. But once we get the opportunity for questions at the end, I will allow you to unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand either virtually or in real life, and we'll call on you for your questions. Or if you would like, you can type your questions out in the chat as we go along. This program will be recorded and archived to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, I will be linking it in the chat. And without further ado, I'd like to hand this over to Sal Murguia, who helped us coordinate today's Wescom program.
Thank you, Lam. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this presentation this morning. And my name is Sal Murguia, and I'm the Partner Development Representative with Wescom Credit Union. And I'm being joined today by David DJ Jabczenski, who is the Director of Investment Services with Wescom Financial Services, and Karl Gerstenacker, who is a financial advisor with Wescom Financial Services as well. I just wanted to share my screen, and before I hand it off to both both DJ and Karl, I want to share my screen and go over a little bit of who Wescom is and why we're associated with UCLA. So I'm just going to do that here, and I just want to just take a couple minutes to do so, just so we can understand the context and understanding of our relationship with the Bruin community. So Wescom Credit Union was established in 1934. We're one of the largest credit unions in Southern California. A credit union offers similar products and services as a bank, but like other credit unions, Wescom is a non-for-profit cooperative, meaning the money that we take in, we give back to our members in the form of lower fees and lower rates, where in the long run, if you're doing all your products and services equally, you'll typically save more money in the long run when you do business with the credit union. We have 24 Southern California branches locally, and we just started or I shouldn't say just started, but 5 years ago, Wescom and UCLA came to an agreement to where we became the official banking partners of UCLA Athletics, Campus Life and Recreation, and the Alumni Association. We also have a lot of established relationships throughout the UCLA community, which includes staff assembly, and of course, why we're here today with the retiree segment of staff and faculty. And we want to be a resource for the entire Bruin community. That includes student, alumni, and of course, faculty and staff. We're here to help create healthy financial habits for all of our members and anyone who's listening in on presentations such as this. We also want to make banking easy. When you're doing business with Wescom, or if you decide to become a Wescom member, we have our various savings accounts that we can afford to our members. We also have our checking accounts here. I'm not going to go through all the bullet points on what we have to offer, but just to let you know that when you bank with Wescom, it's a similar experience than what you'd find at a bank that a lot of people are familiar with, one of the large banks. You can bank with us from anywhere with our online and mobile banking, meaning that Wescom does keep up with all of the technological advances that you see in the banking world. So we also have you can access us through online and mobile banking, mobile wallet, Snap Deposit, and Zelle, which a lot of people are doing these days. But if you're used to walking into one of our branches, you can take advantage of walking into one of our Southern California branches, and also have access to over 30,000 plus ATMs nationwide. We also offer a variety and a slew of mortgage or lending options for you that will fit your budget. So we offer mortgages, of course. That's also low rate auto loans, credit cards, home equity, lines of credit, and personal lines of credit as well. Just illustrating that we have a vast array of loan options, just in case you're looking for a trusted organization to do some of your lending practices with. One of the featured products that we have for all of our Bruin community is our new agreement with UCLA to promote the Bruin Edge and the Bruin Choice Visa cards. So here's all the listed benefits that you could really take advantage of when you have when you're get the Bruin Edge or the Bruin Choice cards. So it's 0% intro APR for 6 months, 50,000 points after $2,500 spent in the first 3 months, 1.5 points per $1, and 5 points per $1 at all these UCLA related locations. As a part of being part of the Bruin community, we have our Wescom financial advisor who is exclusive to the UCLA audience. His name is Karl Gerstenacker, who will be presenting rather shortly. You can make an appointment with him today. You'll see his email address there, kgerstenacker@wescomfinancial.com. And there's his extension after our 888 number, which is 1239. And once again, I just want to highlight the fact that we have 24 Southern California branches. We do have a branch at the Ackerman Student Union if you happen to be on campus, but we have 24 other Southern California locations. They're ready to serve you Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So with that being said, I'm going to hand the ball off to our featured speakers. I'm still going to keep sharing the screen, but DJ, Karl, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Hey everybody. Thanks so much for having us. My name's Karl Gerstenacker. I'm the financial advisor that covers the Wescom branches in Culver City, as well as UCLA, and really just the whole UCLA community. And thanks so much for having us again. Basically, what I do is I help our members and our clients make informed financial decisions. As general as that may sound, that is essentially at the core of what we help our members and our clients do. A big part of that entails informing our membership and our clients on how different investment types work, how they function, how they can plan towards a successful retirement or living in retirement. A big part of that also is informing our members of how the markets function, right? And how sometimes market volatility can impact somebody's portfolio, as everybody's seen. Just a quick kind of snapshot of what's been going on the last 3-4 months. I wanted to give you guys just an idea of if you have retirement accounts or any sort of investment accounts, you've likely seen them be relatively volatile the past 4 or 5 months. We've seen things like inflation rising, the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, obviously geopolitical situations going on abroad. And so all that can play into how your investments perform. That part I think is very, very important to understand, but I think something that isn't maybe talked about enough is our members or our clients' goals when it comes to estate planning, right? DJ, who's on the call here, is going to be talking to us more so about the estate planning basics and kind of how to think about how to leave your legacy when you're no longer here, and how certain assets work when you're passing it on to your loved ones. So again, we're very excited to be here. DJ, I'll hand it over to you to continue.
Okay, sounds good. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks again, Karl. And again, thank you for the time. We deeply appreciate it. As Karl did mention, we are with Wescom Financial Services. I'm the Director of Investment Services. And so what we want to do is walk through, as Karl said, just some estate planning basics. Karl and I are not attorneys. We are not CPAs. However, we want to bring this to everyone's attention because, estate planning is very personal. One size definitely does not fit all. And so as we go through the slides here, really what we want to do is just bring awareness to some of this information. What I definitely would recommend is at the end of the presentation, if some of these topics resonate with you, you'd like more information, I want just to go through some of them and see, how does this pertain to me? Wescom does have additional outside resources if you are looking for an attorney or someone that could actually help you with drafting some of this information. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go to the next slide here. Just a quick disclosure I want to put up on the next slide. You can see on the next slide, think Sal's controlling it there, so we'll just give him a second. Perfect. So you can see on the next slide, we have just a quick disclosure, of course, and then Karl's information. And also at the very end of the presentation, we also have Karl's information we'll put up. Okay. All right, so let's go to slide number 3. What is an estate plan? And as I mentioned in the beginning, it basically is just a simple way of how you and your family want to manage your personal and your financial affairs, assuming something happens, whether that's incapacity, passing away, or something that happens where you basically want to make sure that loved ones and family can help and take care of both you and all of your financial documents, right? So let's go to the next slide and we'll talk a little bit more about, who does need an estate plan. Now, we may be thinking, and I thought this too as I got into the investment business, that an estate plan is really for someone that is very wealthy, but that's actually not the case. It is for everyone, whether it's a large estate, a small estate. Typically in a small estate, there's final expenses. There's a lot of things that have to go on. And so it's very, very important to make sure that you do have an estate plan. That can be very simple. That can be very straightforward. And then it could be also complex. And we'll get into some of those different topics. But again, you can take a look at the slide here. Again, it's not for the wealthy. Without an estate plan, again, you can't control what happens if you pass away. So very, very important to make sure you do have that. An estate plan makes sure that your wishes and your desires are made sure that, they're carried out by your family. It could be friends and family that are actually helping you through this process. But again, very, very important to make sure that you do have this. And we'll talk about some of the aspects of, what goes into an estate plan. So we're going to click to the next slide here. And on slide number 5, here's some of the things that we're going to be discussing over the next 30 minutes here. So some of the basic estate planning concepts we're going to touch on. First thing is incapacity, also healthcare, managing properties. So I imagine many of you on the call here have a home. And so that's very important to make sure, how does that actually play into the whole process? We don't want to think about our passing, but it's very important to make sure that, we have all the documents in place, whether that's a will or some sort of trust. And then there's also ways to transfer monies to loved ones during your lifetime. And so we'll touch on lifetime gifting. Also, something we do at Wescom Financial Services and Wescom Credit Union is life insurance. It's something that absolutely our members are asking for. And then, of course, we're going to touch on trusts and some of the things that go into creating a trust. Okay, so those are some of the concepts. As I said, we're going to touch on these, and really the purpose of today is to bring awareness to these items. And again, as we go forward, since everything is very personal and it's tailored specifically to you, it's really important to make sure to have those individual conversations and see where this may fit in. But let's go to slide number 6, and we're going to talk about the first topic, which is called incapacity. And again, I know everyone, especially living in Southern California, all of us are eating healthy. We're doing all the right things to stay fit, but it's really important to make sure that, should this strike us, it's important to make sure, what do we have in place, such as do we have someone that we could appoint to be our guard through this if you're incapacitated. It's important to make sure, who's going to make those decisions for you for medical treatments. So very important to make sure that, you plan for that. It's something we don't want to sometimes discuss, but it's important to make sure that we take care of our financial affairs. And you can go through this process by making sure you have someone that is a guardian to help you through this process. Now, slide number 7 talks a little bit about if someone is incapacitated, what happens? What's some of the documents that you can actually have in place? So again, we want to make sure that someone's wishes are expressed specifically, and you can do this a lot of ways. There is what is called a living will. And just like it says on the screen here, it's actually during your lifetime. It puts instructions in writing of exactly what you want to see happen. If you're still alive but can't make those decisions, this is where this would come into play. In the middle of this slide, you're going to hear about a power of attorney, or what is called a durable power of attorney for healthcare. So you can specifically set this up and appoint someone should you not be able to make those decisions. You have someone that can actually help. This could be a family member, could be a trusted individual, someone that is close to you and understands your wishes. And again, this is what we call as a healthcare proxy. We want to make sure that exactly what you want to see happen, happens. And then at the very end, on the far right side of the slide, you can see what is called a do not resuscitate. So these are some of the documents and some of the items that are included when you do a trust, or you're drafting some of these documents on your own. But again, the purpose is, we don't want to see a loved one in any type of suffering due to a terminal illness. And so again, it's important to make sure having these documents in place that, again, the wishes and your desires are carried out. Let's go to slide number 8. Now, here's some additional items to think about as it relates to incapacity. And some of these things are very simple to do, such as managing a piece of property. Now, if you do have a piece of property, there could be an opportunity to put that into a joint ownership. But again, that does now allow that individual to have access to the property in the sense of either selling the property or transacting on the property. But again, joint ownership is one of those ways that if it's a spouse or a loved one, they absolutely have the ability to take over should something happen. Power of attorneys in the middle there, you can see, are very important. And again, that's something that you can set up. Again, always recommend to sit down with an attorney, someone that actually can help you through that process. But again, a durable power of attorney can help in this situation if someone is incapacitated, and of course, they're trying to manage a piece of property. And on the very far right is a living trust. Now, again, that is something where an attorney will draft that up. But again, in there, they're going to name a successor trustee, someone that will take over, or even naming a company or a trust company to manage the property in the way and wishes that you desire. So let's go to slide number 9. And so what happens if you don't have an estate plan should you pass away? Again, it really depends. Now, state of California has certain laws as it relates to probate. So if you don't have an estate plan, again, we're going to talk about this in just a couple of minutes here. There is a lot of ways that you absolutely can make sure that your accounts, your IRAs, your retirement accounts, your life insurance does go to your loved ones. And it's very simple, and that is just by naming beneficiaries, right? So on your IRA accounts, on your accounts, designate that person both either the primary or contingent beneficiary. So that way the disposition of the property will go to that person and you do not need a will. Now, for accounts or different type of things that you, of course, can't name the beneficiary on, it is very important to make sure that you do have a will. So let's go to slide 10 and just see a quick example here. So if you don't have any estate plan in place, this shows you a little bit about a typical scenario. So let's say that you had $5,000 in a savings account. So what happens when you pass away? Well, if you don't have any instructions on file, the money typically would go to the person or the people that the state laws say it should go to. So you can see here, if a husband or a father passes away, the state actually would be involved with dividing the property, and that property would be divided amongst the surviving spouse and the children. So again, it's very important to make sure that you do have an estate plan, because again, the state will get involved, but they don't know all the inner workings of your family. So very important to make sure that you do have your estate planning documents in place. If we go to slide number 11 here, there's a couple of ways to start this. So that way you don't find yourself, as we just looked at in slide 10, where the state has to step in, and that is the probate process. But there is an important thing, and that is just creating a will. It's, as it says on the screen here, it's really the cornerstone to your plan. It directs exactly how you want the property to be distributed. You can name an executor and a guardian, especially if you have minor children. So children under 18, also special needs, it's very important to make sure that's addressed. And again, this is a document that's written, it's signed by you. Definitely make sure to have a witness. And then also that may be a document that you want to get notarized. And again, that's something that Wescom does within our branches, is notarize documents. Let's go to slide number 12. And we won't spend a whole lot of time on the probate process, but just know that, again, most wills still will need to be probated. You want to file that will in the probate court. And as it says on here, again, this is basically a way that the executor can collect assets, they pay debts, they file tax returns, they do a lot for the beneficiary, or I should say the estate owner. But again, the whole process can take a lot of time, and there is a lot of cost to it. If we go to slide number 13, and again, this talks about the probate process. I know the slide says there's some pros and cons about the probate process. I truly feel, this is my own personal belief, that there is a lot of negatives going through the probate process. It absolutely can be time consuming. There is fees involved. It is a public record. There's delays. Again, it's just not a fun process because, again, the courts are deciding how your estate should be divided and paid to your heirs. So again, a lot of ways to avoid this, and we're going to talk about a few of those in just a minute. So if we go to page number 14, avoiding probate, there is a lot of ways to do that. As it says here, you can put your property as a joint owner with rights of survivorship. But again, make sure that if you list someone on an account or on a piece of property, they are now a joint owner and have rights to it. So you need to be very careful about that. You can complete a beneficiary designation, and that's something we do here at Wescom. We can help you with your IRAs, your retirement plans, your life insurance, and just by naming someone on there, it will avoid probate. Of course, having a trust is very important. That's another way to avoid your lifetime is another opportunity. So that way, again, you know exactly where the asset is going and who will receive it. Now we're going to go to slide number 15. And so we'll just touch on some tax basics. As I did mention earlier, Karl and I were not CPAs, but again, we want to just bring some high level talking points to tax basics as it relates to gifts and other things. So we're going to touch on federal gift tax, estate tax, just some of these items here as we go through the presentation. So let's go to slide number 16. And I'm going to talk about this for just a couple of minutes. So there is what is called a federal gift tax. So basically, you have the opportunity during your life to actually gift money to family and friends. And again, this is using your federal gift tax. Now you can see on the screen here in bullet point number 3, they give us a large amount to be excluded from tax, and that's $12 million. So very, very high amount. So majority of everyone we work with does not fall in that category. But again, if you are over that amount, then doing this type of strategy could make sense. But you can see bullet point number 2, there is opportunities to do gifting during your lifetime. We see this a lot within the credit union where members come in and they decide to, on an annual basis, gift monies to a family member. And again, that $16,000 is the annual gift exclusion amount, meaning that you will not be taxed on that amount. So let's go to slide number 17. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. This is the federal estate tax. So as you pass away, there is a potential tax. Now, when you take a look at this again, bullet point number 3, 12 million is excluded from all transfers, gifts, and estate, which is combined for 2022. So that is a very significant and large amount. So majority of everyone we work with does not fall in this situation to have a federal tax at death. But again, it's important to just understand what those levels and those limits are. So I know many, many years ago, this was much lower, but again, this has been moved up significantly higher. So anything over 12 million would be subject to the estate tax. Let's go to slide number 18. Again, we talked a little bit about this, the federal estate tax. Just know that if you look at the last bullet point here for a husband and wife, both husband and wife each have that amount, that $12 million amount. So when you combine it, technically 24 million can be left to beneficiaries tax-free. So very, very high amount. I know, as I said, a decade or so ago, this was much lower, around $1 million. But again, they have moved this up. So now majority of individuals will not have to worry about that. Let's go to slide number 19. This is just another kind of example here of what is called the generation skipping transfer. It's a way that you can actually transfer property, not to a child, but to a grandchild. So you're skipping a generation. And again, you get an exemption of 12 million. So again, does not come up a lot, but I just wanted to touch on this. It's just another strategy during your lifetime to make sure that your estate goes to your beneficiaries. We'll talk about slide number 20 here, which is the transfer tax basics. So these are some of the things that we just covered here. Again, once you're over these amounts, you're looking at a 40% for the top rate. So again, very important that if your estate is above these amounts to death, because again, we want to make sure that you avoid these taxes. Let's go to slide 21. And we touched on this. We'll just touch on it just for a couple of minutes again. This is the lifetime gifting. So again, making gifts during one's lifetime, it's a common estate planning strategy. And the whole purpose is to minimize the transfer tax as you pass away. So rather than waiting for beneficiaries to receive their funds at death, you actually are gifting that during your lifetime. And you can see the very last bullet point, it says no step-up basis in the property carries over. So again, the purpose is to gift $16,000 in an annual basis to family and friends and those individuals that you love. So again, it removes it from your estate. We'll go to slide number 22. Again, it just basically talks a little bit more about the gifting. You can gift $16,000 to as many individuals as you want. So again, it doesn't have to be just family, it could be friends too. And that's $32,000 if it's a joint gift. So husband and wife are making a joint gift, they can actually do $32,000. And what we see in bullet point number 2 on here is, one of the things that we do at Wescom is we help with college planning. So we see this from time to time where a member comes in and says, you know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and apply my gift, but actually I'd like to go ahead and gift my full amount of what I can gift, which in this case could be $80,000 or $160,000 with a spouse, and that is funded into a 529 for college. So a lot of ways to do this. And again, funding a 529 is a great way to not only provide the gift, but also fund for college education. Okay, so we'll go to slide number 23, and we have about 5-6 more slides here. So slide number 23 talks about a trust. Now, clearly, it is one of the most powerful tools in the estate planning process. A trust is common and it's very versatile. As you can see here, it provides a lot of control, and it's really what is important to make sure in avoiding probate. A trust is part of the overall strategy. You can minimize your taxes. You can help manage property, especially if you have minor children or even elderly parents. It's very important because, again, the trust is going to name beneficiaries. It establishes, protection from potential creditors. So it does a lot for you. And you can see some of the bullet points on here. Again, it's meant to safeguard for minor children, elderly parents, and your beneficiaries. So slide number 24, you can see just a quick example here of what the trust may look like. Again, it's a legal entity that holds property. It could hold your bank accounts. It can hold, investments, you name it. So basically, it's a trust. It's agreement. There is a grantor in the trust that decides, I'm going to grant this property, and again, I'm going to have a trustee in the account or in this trust, as well as named beneficiaries, and those also are named in there. So a trust is created so that way, upon death, it will absolutely help in making sure that your wishes are carried out. So very, very important. And this is where an attorney would sit down and draft this with you and ask you some very important questions of what's important to you. We'll go to slide 25. This is about life insurance. So life insurance is a great tool in the financial planning process. So it plays a very, very important role. Again, it's there to help, whether that debts, final outstanding debts, paying taxes. It also provides liquidity. So on the passing of an individual with life insurance, those funds are immediately available. And again, it's meant to help the estate. Also, some individuals decide that they want to leave their estate to a charity or also to a college. And that happens a lot of times, that someone may decide to name UCLA as the beneficiary on their account. And again, a lot of what we just talked about in that trust is carried out, all the wishes of what you would like to see, so that it's very important. But again, life insurance is very important because, again, it's providing that liquidity to the estate. All right, so a few more slides here. Slide number 26. This is a very complex strategy. We'll just spend just a minute on this. But basically what this is called is life insurance is a great way to remove, I should say, wealth from your estate. So this is just a strategy. It's called a irrevocable life insurance trust. Basically what you're doing is insuring your life. There is a trust that owns the property, and then on your passing, it goes to your beneficiaries, but it goes outside of your estate. So it is a strategy that some individuals use that, again, we can assist with. But again, knowing the levels of 12 million is the amount that is excluded from taxes. Again, it's very maybe difficult for someone to be above that amount. And in that case, this could be a strategy for them. Slide number 27, again, just talks a little bit more about that, what happens on your passing. Again, the whole purpose of this strategy is to make sure that your beneficiaries receive the funds and that you do not pay estate tax. So we'll go to slide 28 as we wrap up here. Again, the purpose of us joining today was making sure that you think about some of these things. Do you have a plan should you become incapacitated? What does that look like? What does your health decisions look like? Who will manage your property if you do have a business? What does that look like? So it's very important to make sure that you have that in place. Do you have a valid will? I think that's important to make sure. When is the last time you've updated that? Do you have a copy of that will someplace that your loved ones can get a copy of that to understand what your wishes and wants are? And of course, transferring. Are you concerned about taxes when you pass away? I think that's important. Make sure to have that conversation and to make sure that it passes away so you can leave your legacy to your family. And of course, at the very end, does your overall estate plan reflect your current wishes and circumstances? We see a lot of our members that do set up trusts, and that trust may have been set up 10 years ago. Maybe some of your wishes and wants have changed. Maybe there's new individuals that you would like to name as a trustee or a successor trustee. So very important to make sure that you update all of your documents as well as your beneficiaries. It's important to make sure that on all your accounts at institutions, investment accounts, your IRAs, your 401ks, your 457s, that you look at the beneficiaries of that. And again, that's a simple, easy, no cost way to make sure that all of your estate is in order. So on that note, we are at the end, and slide number 29 just has Karl's information up again. So if you have any questions or if we can be of guidance or service to everyone on the call here, look to us to be a resource to you all. All right, Sal, thank you for running the slides for us. And that concludes. So this may be a good time to answer any questions. I know myself and Karl and Sal are here. See if anyone has any questions. So one thing I'll just mention, you may be thinking, where do I begin? Where do I start this process? What's interesting is on a monthly basis, we do educational events for all of our members and for UCLA. And the purpose is to bring awareness, to bring, that starting step. Where do I begin? How do I take that first step? So that first step could be sitting with Karl or having a conversation, whether that's virtually or in one of our offices. And then secondly, we have a lot of resources we can provide to kind of help you down that road and that path, if you decide, you know what, I really need to take a look at my estate. Is everything in order? Are my financial documents up to date? So again, that's a great starting place as you look to make some of these decisions.
Okay, we have a question from Deborah. She says, my husband wants to know if the person gifted the $16K, are they taxed for it?
Okay, so how that works is on an annual basis, of course, the 16,000 can be gifted to that individual. So I think I'm trying to understand the question. The person receiving the gift, is there tax on that? I think that may be the question. Okay, so the person receiving the gift, of course, they do want to report that. What's important to make sure, though, is depending on their tax situation, that could be something that is not taxable. So very important to make sure is again, 16,000 a year is the ability to be gifted. If it's a husband and wife, they can gift double that amount or 32,000. So it's important to make sure to stay within those limits, because if you go outside of those limits, it could be where the tax starts to kick in. They want to make sure that, again, you're not exceeding your lifetime gift to that individual. Looks like there's a question from Michelle. For financial assets with beneficiaries named, will those assets go through probate if no trust is in place? So the nice thing is, and Karl, feel free to jump in also on this, a perfect example is your IRA. Now, one of the things in the state of California, because we are a community property state, it's important to make sure that if you are married, you must name your spouse. If your spouse is not named, your spouse needs to sign off on that. And of course, you can name another beneficiary. But as long as you have that beneficiary in place, absolutely it will pass to that individual and will not be part of probate. So very important to make sure to do that and make sure your accounts are up to date. Looks like there's a question here, current rules for inherited Roth accounts. So Karl, I don't know if you wanted to jump in and maybe take that question, maybe just talk in general about inherited IRAs.
Sure. So the rules on retirement accounts changed back in January of 2020 when the Secure Act was passed. Keep in mind, Roth IRAs they're tax-free retirement accounts, and so any sort of distribution from them will still be considered tax-free. They still, however, will have, depending on your age, it gets very tricky here. If you're a spouse of the person who passed away, then you essentially can take over as the owner of the account and keep the account open just under your name, keep investing the funds in it, or you can do fully withdraw it. If you're a non-spouse beneficiary, then if you're more than 10 years younger than the person who passed away, then essentially there's a 10-year rule where the funds in the Roth IRA have to be distributed within 10 years. If you're within 10 years in terms of age, younger than the person who passed that you're inheriting from, then you can extend distributions. You have to take out what are called required minimum distributions every year. So it's pretty much just a minimum that they require for you to pull out every year. Again, the big difference here between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA is tax implications when money comes out of them. A traditional IRA, it'll be considered taxable income. A Roth IRA will be tax-free when you pull it out.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karl. We have a question from Kathy here. It says, if I named beneficiaries for my bank and investment account, do I still need a trust? It's a great question. The nice thing is if you've named beneficiaries on your investment accounts, your bank accounts, those funds will go directly to those individuals. And so it's also important to make sure to have a copy of maybe a will or something that your beneficiaries know that account is set up for them. So would you still need a trust? Well, again, that would depend. I would say this. if you do have property, if you have minor children, as we mentioned, if you have maybe elderly parents that you're taking care of or grandparents, I think that's very important because, again, the trust would absolutely name who would take over and what financial decisions or healthcare decisions would need to be made. So again, we do have resources at Wescom where we would refer you to an outside attorney who would do that process for you. But again, it's a great question that you did bring up. Another question, Karl, if you want to take the one maybe from Dennis here. If you draw money from your IRA and gift it, do you need to pay taxes since the IRA is not tax-free?
Good question, Dennis. So any sort of withdrawal that you make from a traditional IRA, so a traditional IRA being a pre-tax retirement account, then yes, it will be considered taxable income when it's withdrawn, even if it is going to be gifted. If it's a Roth IRA, it won't be considered a taxable distribution since it's after tax and later on tax-free money that you're pulling out.
Something I'll just add to, and again, thank you for all the questions. What is the cost to set up a trust? It really depends. I know there is a lot of different attorneys that some may charge $2,500 up to $5,000 to set that up. So it could be very, very costly. I know at Wescom, we've partnered with some outside organizations that can actually help in that process. And so we have a referral program where we would refer you to that individual. And of course, they would walk you through the process. We try to set up some pricing so that way if our members are interested, it is reasonable. So again, you're looking probably around that $2,500 mark. But again, I know some attorneys can charge much, much more. So very important to make sure to do your research, do your homework before committing and going to that next step. So again, although we're not attorneys, we can be a resource and at least guide you to. Okay, so I don't see any other questions in the chat box. Those were great questions. Excellent.
Yeah.
All
Hi,
right.
this is Maria from the Emeriti Retirees Relations Center.
Hi.
If we don't have any more questions, I think we'll go ahead and close the meeting for the day and thank our presenters very, very much for this wonderful presentation. Oh, here's a question just come in. Can individuals set up their own trusts?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is resources out there where someone can set up their own trust. You just want to be very careful. I know there is do-it-yourself places to do this. I think if you have a very straightforward situation, that may be the case. If it's more complex, like I said, if you own properties, minor children, elderly grandparents, that would definitely be where you'd want to sit down with someone. And again, that attorney will guide you through that process, answer the questions. And of course, if you do have property, it's very important to make sure that that trust or that property does get put into the trust so your wishes are acknowledged in that trust. So very good question.
Okay, again, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very helpful and very informative. And we thank you for coming and sharing all your knowledge. And thank you very, very much to Sal for coordinating this presentation. And thank you to all of our guests for attending our presentation today. And that'll wrap up our meeting.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Karl, for a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank you,
Sal.
Maria.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Karl.
And thank you, Lam, as well. Thank you. Thank you, team.
thank
All
you,
right.
Lam.
So with that, I'll turn off the recording now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.